Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Here now is your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce.
Hello and welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections. I'm your host, President of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce, Chad Amond. I am delighted to have two guests on the show this morning. Kelli Belanger, who is the CEO of the Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Laurel Region, and Ali Iezzi, who is Special Events Director for Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Laurel Region. Ladies, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to educate the listeners a little bit about what Big Brothers Big Sisters does. I think everybody knows the name, but there's probably some people out there that are listening to the show. They may be driving down the highway today or sitting having a cup of coffee, and that they're like, I've heard Big Brothers Big Sisters, but I'm not quite sure what they do. So Kelli, kick us off and tell us a little bit about the history of Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Absolutely, Chad. That is actually one of our biggest challenges. A lot of folks have heard Big Brothers Big Sisters and view it very favorably, but a lot of times we get some surprise that, you do exist in our local community. So we are happy, again, thank you so much. We're happy to be here today and talk about what we do. So historically, Big Brothers Big Sisters has actually been around since 1904, and the program started in New York City. There was a clerk of the court who kept seeing a lot of boys coming through who were getting in trouble and didn't have any male role models in their life. So that gentleman said, hey, I want to make a difference. Let's rally together some men in the area. He was connected with some churches and said, hey, guys, let's step up. Let's get some role models in these boys' lives. Let's keep them out of trouble. Let's get them on the right path. And then at the same time, there was another group of women who was also trying to do the same thing. So that's how it really started, as just a way to get these kids some role models in their lives, keep them out of trouble, get them on the path to success, and get them some positive outlook in their life.
So 1904.
Yes.
So I didn't know that.
Yes.
The Big Brothers Big Sisters has existed for over 100 years.
Correct.
And so I guess, do we look at it as a positive that these problems have existed for maybe for eternity? Is that the positive way to look at it, or the negative way?
Oh, geez, a little bit of both. It's amazing that we've had folks for over 100 years who've been willing to step up and mentor. One of the things that people also don't realize is we are truly a community agency. We are the community's agency. Our programs and services could not exist without volunteers stepping up to help out. So all of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters that you see, that you hear about, they're all volunteers. So they are coming out of the goodness of their heart, coming and just sharing their time, talents, resources with these folks. So it's very, very positive that we've had people who've been doing this over 100 years. The flip side of that is, while Big Brothers Big Sisters started as a way to just get positive role models in kids' lives, we have seen a dramatic change in the needs of kids. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that more, but we are just seeing kids, even in my span of being the CEO, just kids with so many different issues and different problems that people wouldn't have dreamed of 100 years ago.
So Big Brothers Big Sisters started at a national level in the early 1900s. When did Big Brothers Big Sisters come to Westmoreland County?
The agency came to Westmoreland County in 1975, and it was actually a branch off of the Pittsburgh agency that had already been in existence for about 10 years prior. So we just celebrated our 40th anniversary 2 years ago. The Pittsburgh agency celebrated their 50th anniversary 2 years ago. So While it started in New York City, it kind of spread out throughout the United States. And then how it is set up today, every agency is run by county. So we serve Westmoreland and Fayette counties here with our agency, which is the Laurel Region.
The Laurel Region.
Yes.
So before we get into the programs and services, let me ask you these questions, Ali and Kelli. How did you get to Big Brothers Big Sisters? Ali, I'm going to start off with you. You've been shy of the microphone yet so far. So how did you get to Big Brothers Big Sisters?
I got here from Kelli, actually.
Okay.
Kelli and I kind of knew each other a small lifetime ago. We grew up playing soccer together, and she reached out to me when the opportunity arose, and I coach kids, and I have 4. So it seemed like a good fit, and I love it. I'm coming up on my year anniversary of being with the agency, and it's been exciting. I have learned so much from her and the other girls in the office, and the kids that we interact with, and the volunteers and the people that are a part of us, what they give back and what they are bringing to us. And it's just, the agency itself is amazing. It's something that everybody should want to be a part of.
Well, so. Kelli, you're a part of it. You're leading the organization. You're leading the organization for the Laurel Region. And how did you get to Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Yeah, well, I've been here almost 13 years, which is hard to believe. But I guess a little bit of my background is same as Ali. I was very involved in coaching and sports when I was very young, and I grew up over the mountain in Somerset. And came from just a small town, rural area. Everyone helped each other. Everyone had that giving feeling. I had wonderful parents who taught myself and my sister to give back to the community. So I was always involved in coaching, mentoring, growing up. And when the opportunity arose for the position, I was actually working downstairs in the office building where Big Brothers Big Sisters was. So I knew folks in the building, and I had a couple people say, hey, the position is open. You should consider it. I was also just finishing up my master's degree in leadership from Duquesne University, so it felt like a great fit. And I had also heard about Big Brothers Big Sisters, so same as what I had talked about before. Heard about it, had a good image in my mind, but never really knew the local connection and exactly how it worked. And once I did my research, I just fell in love and was determined to get that position.
So you learned about the program, and that part of Westmoreland Community Connections is to educate others about the program. Yes. So let's talk about programs and services. Sure. What does Big Brothers Big Sisters do? Let's talk about community-based mentoring. I think that's one of the issues that you tackle.
Yes. So I mentioned before that we could not exist without the help of volunteers. So all of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters we have are volunteers from the community. So they are folks who, for whatever reasons, are stepping up saying, hey, I want to make a difference. So we have to give all the credit to them because they're what makes us run. So we have two different programs. We have one that's called community-based mentoring, one that's called school-based mentoring. So most folks are familiar with community-based mentoring. And that's where someone like you, Chad, no pressure or anything, might step up and say, hey, I want to make a difference. I want to be a big brother.
For those listening, she's handing me me an application to be a volunteer.
Sign on the dotted line. That signature is valid. So someone like you might say, hey, I've heard about it. I want to make a difference. It's the right time in my life. Let's see what it's all about. So we put volunteers who are interested through an orientation process. They come and they learn about the program, about our services, about goals of the program, a lot about the kinds of kids that we are working with. And obviously they have to go through a pretty extensive interview process, clearances, background checks, references. And once they get to the point where they are ready to be an official Big Brother, Big Sister, we will enroll them and have them ready for a child. On the flip side, we do the same thing with the parents and children who come to us. So we put them through a very rigorous interview process, background process, just trying to figure out what everyone's goals are, what everyone's needs are, so that when we put a match together, they are the best fit possible. And we want that child to have an adult in their life that they can count on. So we always say that kids today have a revolving door syndrome going on in their lives. So they've got people coming in and out, whether it's therapists, whether it's other family members, boyfriends, girlfriends, siblings, relatives. We want to be that one constant in that child's life. So when we do put the match together in the community-based program, that adult and that child go out and do things in the community. So we take a very close look at what they're interested in and try to put them together. So if you're a sporty, outdoorsy type person, we're not going to put you with a child who likes computers, books, games. Oh, okay. We want you to have a lot in common so you can go out and experience new things together.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We're talking with Kelli Belanger, CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Laurel Region, and Ali Iezzi, Special Events Director for Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Laurel Region. Kelli, you talked a little bit about the mentoring, the community-based mentoring. What are some of the things that a mentor would have to go through during the orientation session? I mean, what do they learn about?
We are very real during our orientation sessions,
Okay.
so it gets very real. We actually do them in group settings, which is very nice because we have different people from different backgrounds who are there sharing their experiences. We really put it all out on the line and say, here are the things that you might be working with. Here are examples of the issues and the challenges that these children face. Here are some issues that their parents face. Here are the challenges their parents face. Right. Here are the things that you will face. We do a lot of what-if questions with them. You know, what if your little brother tells you this? What if you're out in the public and your little sister does this? You know, what if you go home and you see this in the home? So we really try to give them a very clear, honest, real picture of what's going on.
Right. Well, Ali said that, you know, she has 4 kids, and I have the same. And I mean, kids aren't always easy. So, I mean, while we see the pictures, I mean, I can imagine that sometimes the big brothers and big sisters, you know, they find out that the kid maybe is, you know, doing something that they shouldn't be doing. How do they deal with that kind of stuff?
Exactly. Well, what's nice with our agency, and a lot of people don't realize this, a lot of people have the impression that we kind of just put kids out there with adults and they go and do things. We actually have a very extensive staff network that works behind the scenes. Our mentoring coordinators are professional staff. They're well-trained, well-qualified. They keep in close contact with the parent, the child, and the volunteer throughout the whole relationship. And that is actually a part of our being a member of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. We have to follow a very strict guideline of when we need to stay in contact, how we deal with issues when they come up, what issues to look for, what red flags to look for. With any relationship, there's the honeymoon phase.
Yeah,
so
right.
things are great, they're fantastic, they're wonderful, and then boom, you hit that brick wall. So we understand that, we're trained for that, we know what questions to ask, and our staff are constantly there. And what's nice also about our agency is we do have a small staff, so everyone who gets involved with our agency gets the opportunity to know more than one staff member. So they can pick up the phone and they can call our office, and anybody is there and able and willing to help them.
Approximately how many community-based volunteers do you have?
Community-based volunteers, we have about 120.
Wow.
And then on the school side, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we have about 140. So we're serving almost 300 children with, again, 300 community volunteers.
Well, you made the segue. Let's talk about the school program.
So, not to put any pressure on you again, but we are always short on. That's right. We're always short on male volunteers. So our national organization in about 1993 came up with the idea that, hey, let's change our programs a little bit. Let's see if we can try and bring some more males into the picture. Let's run some school-based programs. So in the community-based program, our volunteers and our kids are out there doing things, having new experiences on their own in the community, obviously all with the permission of mom or dad. And in the school-based program, the volunteer actually comes to the school and meets with the child during the school day at that child's school, and it only takes place during the school year. So there's no outside interaction, there's nothing, no commitments they have to worry about. So the thought from our national office was, hey, all these folks who say they're too busy and they're not sure if they want to do it, they want to do something, they don't know if they can handle it. Let's get their feet wet, let's put them in the school program, and then hopefully they fall in love like we know they will.
Right.
They'll stick with it and transition. So.
Well, it sounds like you're always looking for volunteers. So if somebody wanted to volunteer while they're listening to this, before they get out of their car or go get another cup of coffee, let's tell them how do they get a hold of you?
Easiest way is check our website. And then either give us a call or send us a message through our website. Our website has all of our staff information on there. It has program information, and they can find us there.
And that website is BBBSLR, right? Big
Correct.
Brothers, Big Sisters of the Laurel Region.
Yes.
So that's BBBSLR.org.
Yes.
So if you're interested,
We're on Facebook too.
and you're on Facebook.
We're on social media. You can also Google Big Brothers Big Sisters. You can Google Westmoreland County, Fayette County.
Okay.
You can always go to the national site as well. They have a nice feature on their national website that you can type in what zip code you're from, and it'll direct you to the right agency. So we are there to be found whenever someone is ready.
So talk about a little bit more about the school program.
Yes.
Do you find that the students are loving this, or are they saying, I don't know. I'm working with an older person or an adult. How are they accepting
The students love it. They love it. And that's actually the number one question I get asked anywhere I go to speak. Don't they feel singled out? Don't they feel weird about it? Our most popular program is our lunch program.
Okay.
So we have our volunteers come in. They actually jump right in. They eat lunch with the kids. In some of our schools, it's right there in the cafeteria with the child, with their peers, because probably 99% of the kids have issues building relationships and acting appropriate socially. So we put those volunteers right in the middle of lunchtime when it's the craziest time of the day, and they model appropriate behavior for those kids. But they love it, and I always joke that I feel bad for our staff and myself when I walk into a school.
Yeah.
As soon as the kids see us, we get rushed. When am I going to get a big brother? When am I going to get a big sister?
Oh, nice.
What's nice too about this area, and I didn't mention yet, we are blessed to have so many colleges and universities around. We have really recruited at those facilities and have great partnerships there. So we have a lot of college students who volunteer while they're studying during their college years. And let's be honest, if some cool college kid walks in with their Seton Hill Griffins shirt or their Bearcats,
right.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've also had sports teams who have done it. So, when that football player walks in with their jersey on, it's pretty cool.
So do you ever see that some of the younger people, maybe the college students, do they embrace this as maybe an opportunity to learn how to be around kids? Maybe it's like a testing for, do I want to be a parent, right?
It is. And when we first started the program, we jumped on board in, as I said, 1993. We jumped on board with it right away, and we went straight to Pitt Greensburg, who has just a booming, wonderful education department, and said, hey, can you help us set this up? We want to make sure we're doing it right. What do we do? And we've had some great connections there. And we really started out by recruiting students who were in education majors, social work, psychology, who were going to be around kids. So it made sense for them to come and have that as their experience. But we've since branched out all over the place.
Right.
You get somebody who loves it, and they tell somebody, they tell somebody, they tell somebody, and it creates a big web.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. If you have a suggestion for a topic, or if your nonprofit organization would like to be featured on this program, call us during regular business hours at 724-216-1200.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission.
Welcome back. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. I'm your host, President of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce, Chad Amond. We are today visiting with Kelli Belanger, who is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Laurel Region, and Ali Iezzi, who is Special Events Director for the organization. When we went to break, we were talking a little bit about how there are the cool kids from the college that are going, and they're picking up a big brother or a little, but there's an aging population in Westmoreland County, and is there any ability of those folks that may be seniors or retirees that want to engage?
Absolutely. Right? That's the one thing that whenever I joined the agency, that I think the misconception, people hear Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and they're thinking younger population, college age or middle age, what's one more kid, right? But actually, the one thing that I think people miss is that it's really the older population that really the kids really need. I've talked to my mom about it. She's older. She has obviously my 4 and 2 more, but it's really that grandparent age that is the perfect age for these kids. They have so much to give back. We talk about how kids these days don't understand respect or whatever, but those are the people that can help and enlighten those kids with manners. And like Kelli said before, they don't always know the proper etiquette at a table or things like that. So we really actually try to get a lot of the older population, retirees and people that have a little bit more time on their hands. When I started, I love the story about the one volunteer we had that loved to golf, and he would go in for the lunch buddy program, and when they would have their special time, he was teaching his little how to golf at recess.
Oh, right.
And so, right. And so then the next cool part was the little boy liked to fish, and the gentleman didn't know how. So he actually brought in a fish the one day to like share it with his bag,
Wow.
which was really cool because those are the things that these kids may not have ever experienced. Like
Yeah.
maybe they've never gone fishing, maybe they've never gone camping, or maybe they don't know how to do those certain types of things. And quite honestly, most people are thinking, oh, well, I have to go and take them to a sporting event, or I need to go spend a lot of money on them. But in actuality, it's just incorporating them into their activities, their daily life. Going, and if you're having a barbecue, some of these kids have never had a barbecue.
Yeah, they've never experienced some of the things that you just figure that are
you just assume,
just life happenings,
Being
right?
like Kelli and I both are coaches, and so of course, we, whether our kids like it or not, they're playing sports and we take them.
Yeah.
But some of the kids have never even been on a sport team, and so just taking them to a soccer practice or seeing baseball or things like that. During the holidays, going and visiting the lights, some kids have never done that. I know I drive around with my kids in neighborhoods and we spot
we do the
lights,
same thing. We listen, we put on some Christmas music, right?
Right. Some kids have never even done that.
So it's obviously the Big Brothers Big Sisters is having a huge impact. Kelli, talk a little bit about some of that impact. What is there preventative issues? Are there issues that are just you can cite that is having the impact?
Absolutely. Right off the bat, we are a preventative agency. So we are very unique in the fact that we are one-to-one. So every child that's matched with a mentor stays with that mentor. And there is tons of research out there that indicates that the longer a child is matched with a big volunteer, the greater the impact will be because they have that constant in their life. And Big Brothers Big Sisters as a whole is actually recognized as a national blueprint model for violence prevention based on some of the research and studies that was conducted years ago and the success that we have. So part of being a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America is that we have a very extensive outcome data collection network that we have to maintain, and we have to constantly report on these kids and figure out how they're doing, how we're making a big impact. Right now, the system that we use breaks their successes down into three main areas: educational success, avoidance of risky behaviors, and socio-emotional competency. And what is nice is when we do these surveys and we look at these outcomes, if we see that a child is struggling in a particular area, we're able to get them that extra support. So for example, educational success, we're able to get in there and help lead them down the right path, help them get their grades corrected, help them get figured out. As Ali said, when we have some of those volunteers who are a little bit older, it's a fantastic opportunity for them to talk about career and talk about what's going on in this community. A lot of our kids are growing up, they have no clue what they want to do, what even exists in their life. I always use the example in Latrobe, one of our school programs is literally right behind Kennemetal. A lot of those kids have no idea what Kennemetal is. They just know it's that big glass building by the airport. They don't know what opportunities are available there.
Sadly, I think there's a lot of adults that don't know.
Maybe.
But I'm sure they could tell you the three Kardashian sisters, right?
Probably. Which may not be the best for our future.
Right.
But it's great, again, to get those volunteers in there who have the diverse experiences and really teach those kids what we have available in the community, and not just here and anywhere. Definitely the job landscape is changing from when we grew up, and there are so many more opportunities. There's also very much a need for skilled laborers again in this area because we're seeing folks transition out of that area. So
well, it's such a primary focus. I mean, it seems like that's what everybody should be focusing on: educational success, avoidance of risky behavior, and socioeconomic competency. Isn't that what all the kids should be focusing on?
It
right?
should be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Well, you're doing fantastic work, and you're celebrating. Is it 40? It's the 40th anniversary, or you've been here for 40 years. So there's amount of change that's going on. I understand, right?
Correct. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary 2 years ago, and when we were looking at, what do we do? How do we make this big? How do we celebrate? We really wanted to celebrate, but we also really wanted to take a hard look at what has been going on and say, hey, we've been amazing for 40 years, but it's really time to change. our children are growing up facing way different issues than they did 40 years ago, than they did 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
Right.
I tell this story, and it makes me cringe. We had a little girl who was 9 years old in one of our programs, saved her mother with Narcan.
Oh.
So, there's something that really hits you in the face. I wouldn't have had a clue what Narcan was when I was 9 years old.
Right.
I really didn't have a clue 2 years ago what Narcan was, but yet that's the reality that some of these kids are growing up in now. So how do we as an agency change? We actually did something pretty neat last summer in 2016. We went under construction and had a big PR campaign planned around it. But the theme was we were going to go under construction to build our programs and make them stronger.
Okay.
So that we're not just tackling these 3 areas, but we're tackling them well. We're tackling them with more substance in our programs. We're not just sending folks out in the community with kids. We're giving them a little bit more of a structured purpose. And I can put you on the hot seat a little bit. One of those things that we wanted to do was introduce more STEAM education with our group. And we had an amazing connection with the Chamber and with the Leadership Westmoreland group, who really helped us kickstart those efforts.
I am proud of those.
I know you're proud.
Don't put me on the spot. Put those for the listeners. Leadership Westmoreland is a 9-month long program where we bring in future leaders of the county and divide them into teams. And one of the teams took on, they called themselves Full Steam Ahead, and they focused on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and they worked with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So tell them, I'm blushing because the chamber was so proud of this group. But tell them, tell the
we
listeners.
love it because we have so much fun when we have outside groups like this. So we historically, as an agency, have provided group outings for our children. We have some amazing places in this area: Idlewild and Soak Zone, Living Treasures. We have some great partnerships with some organizations like that. But this Full Steam Ahead Leadership Westmoreland group put together some activities for our matches that were absolutely amazing. We had a match activity at the Westmoreland Museum of American Art, and feedback we received from some of the children. One of the quotes I love is, I didn't know how to draw, and I'm not a good drawer, but I learned that there's other kinds of art, and I can do something else. We had one child who said, I've never been to a museum before. It's really fancy. I don't know if I can go to a museum because it's so fancy. So just giving our kids the opportunity to get into one of our community staples and really, see what's out there was a lot of fun to witness. We had a group from First Energy take us out and host a day. The kids got to put on the hard hats and the safety belts, got to actually climb poles. They got to go up in bucket trucks. Those kids didn't know that, hey, those are jobs you can have when you grow up.
Right.
Someone has to do that work. Why can't it be you? We had one of our children say, hey, you must have to be really smart to work there. So maybe I can try to work there too when I grow up. So, just getting these kids out into the community. One of my most favorite activities that they put together was at Excella Health Westmoreland with the robotics department. And first of all, they had an amazing staff there welcoming our kids, and our kids got to meet real doctors,
right?
And they weren't sick, and it wasn't a negative experience.
Right.
These were friendly doctors who were willing to talk to them and share their experiences. And then not only did we get to see the robotics, we actually got to play with them, and we actually got to use them. So we had, some kids who said, hey, I like video games. This might be something I can do.
Right.
I'm good at working these controls. So for a child, that you hear, oh, all they do is sit in front of a video game and all they do is play games. Well, yeah, how can we use an experience with our community to turn that into some kind of long-term success for that child?
The impression that I got from that is that I don't know who had more fun. Was it the adults or the students?
We always say staff has to be there to supervise.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Exactly.
Well, Kelli, talk a little bit about future plans. What do you see for the future of Big Brothers Big Sisters for the Laurel region?
We're very excited. We actually are in the process now of planning for 2018. We're trying to come up with some kind of year-long theme. We really took the construction, and folks around the community really went with that. They really went with the Full Steam Ahead theme. So we are trying to come up with a great theme for 2018 that's going to keep us moving in that direction. But really, in our minds, we want to make sure that we are changing and adapting to help these kids out here, and not just be that role model that they need and they deserve, but really take it a step farther and really put them even on a better path to success in life. And we're going to make some big announcements in January. January is National Mentoring Month. So we're very excited.
Those are big announcements. You're
Big
teasing.
announcements.
You're
I
not.
know. Can't reveal
You're not
it
going to
now.
announce them on Westmoreland Community Connections.
No,
Okay.
maybe we can come back.
Oh, okay.
That's right. And
Well, where will the listeners be able to hear these announcements?
they'll be able to hear them on our website, on our Facebook, our Twitter, social media. We also have an e-newsletter. Folks can actually go in through our website and subscribe to our e-newsletter. And then we just try to make as many public appearances as we can. Just get out in the public, get to chamber events, to our networking, go and speak at different clubs, different events. We also try to use our own volunteers to share their experiences. So we really try to push that hard every January that, hey, the best person to relay what we do is you as a big brother, big sister.
Well, there you go. Big Brothers, Big Sisters with the Laurel Region. Kelli, talk a little bit briefly about how someone else can be engaged. I know we talked about it earlier, but if someone was just tuning in recently, let's make sure that they understand how they can be a big.
Absolutely. You can, if you're interested, go onto our website. That's probably the best piece of information. Google us. Go to our website, www.bbbslr.org. And again, you can just Google search us, Westmoreland or Fayette County, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. There's great information there. Also, anytime, pick up the phone, call our staff. We are more than willing to talk. We are fortunate to have a staff who just love the agency, love our mission, love what we do. And if being a big is not something that you're able to do or make that commitment right now, there's other ways to get involved as well. We didn't even talk about funding at all, but we are totally self-sustaining as an agency, so we are constantly having events, trying to raise funding, trying to raise awareness. So we always need volunteers to help us in that way as well, to participate at the events, help us behind the scenes, and then help us with some other different one-day events that we have. Match activities, we're always looking for unique places to take our kids as well.
Well, there you have it. Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Laurel Region. Kelli Belanger, Ali Iezzi, thanks very much for being on the show. You're making an impact in Westmoreland County and Fayette County, all the Laurel Region. Thanks very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. You've been listening to the Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Join us next week, same time, same place, for another edition of Westmoreland Community Connections. Thanks for listening, everyone.
This has been Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings in and around Westmoreland County. Join us again next week on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of the Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission.